round of the 8th annual FAU 3-Minute Thesis Competition. The 3MT competition celebrates the exciting research and creative activity conducted by our very own graduate students here at Florida Atlantic. I am Eleni Webster. I am Co-Assistant Director of the Speaking Center here at Florida Atlantic, and I am very excited. I will be your MC for this preliminary round of this year's 3MT competition. Developed by the University of Queensland, this exercise cultivates students' academic, presentation, and research communication skills. The competition supports their capacity to effectively explain their research in just 3 minutes, in language that is appropriate to non-specialist audience, meaning in simpler layman's terms. For example, instead of saying the dermis was saturated by microtoxins that resulted in idiopathic vulgaris, we would say the skin was allergic and ended up with a rash. It's again layman's simple terms. The idea for the 3MT came about at a time when the state of Queensland was suffering severe drought. To conserve water, residents were encouraged to time their showers, and many people had a 3-minute egg timer fixed to the wall on their bathroom. The then dean of the graduate school, Emeritus Professor Alan Lawson, put 2 and 2 together, and the idea for the 3MT competition was born. It all began in 2008. The first 3MT competition was held at UQ with the 160 higher degree by research candidates that were competing. In 2011, the popularity of the competition has increased, and the 3MT competitions are now held in over 900 universities, and across more than 85 countries worldwide. Then 2020, the famous 2020, the 3MT moved to a temporary virtual format due to COVID-19, but persisted, and has continued to be held around the world in either virtual or live format as we are here today. And now we're in the year 2024, and here we are, about to perform the third round of 3MT. Let's go over some of the competition rules. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes maximum, and competitors exceeding 3 minutes are disqualified. Just 3 minutes. Presentations are to be spoken word, no poems, raps, or songs. I'm a musician, so it makes me just a little bit sad. Presentations are considered to have commenced when a presenter starts their presentation through either movement or speech. So through movement or speech, once you have begun, the timer then begins for your presentation. A single static PowerPoint slide is permitted. No slide transitions, animations, or movement, and is to be presented from the beginning of the oration. No additional electronic media, so no sound or video files, are permitted. And no additional props, so no costumes, musical instruments, or lab equipment are permitted. The decision of the panel is final. So once again, the judge's vote is final. So there are some judging criteria that we're going to go over. The first part of the rubric is the comprehension and content. So presentation provided clear motivation, background, and significance to the research question. The presentation clearly described the research strategy and design, and the results and findings of the research. The presentation also clearly described the conclusion, the outcomes, and the impact of the research. The second section is engagement and communication. The oration was delivered clearly, the language was appropriate for a non-specialist audience. So people that are not particularly in your fields can still understand the content material. The PowerPoint slide was well defined and enhanced the presentation. Did your visual aid contribute to your presentation? And the presenter conveyed enthusiasm for the research and captured and maintained the audience's attention. Allow your personality to flow through your presentation. You can find a full and comprehensive list of rules and judging criteria right there in your program. We are authorized counters up to these bullets and ballots, and the decision of the adjudicating panel is final. The judge's vote is final. Now, the winner of our preliminary round today will receive $1,000. The first runner-up receives $500. Second runner-up, $250. And your People's Choice winner will receive $500. As college students, we are all grateful. It is possible to place and win People's Choice for an even greater prize. You can have intersecting prizes right there. We invite each of you to attend the championship round this Thursday evening, starting at 6 p.m. So again, this Thursday evening at 6 p.m., you are all invited to attend once more. Each winner from the preliminary rounds will compete in the championship round for the opportunity to win additional scholarship awards. And now, on to the competition, or in the words of Taylor Swift, let the games begin. Our esteemed judges are with us today. Let's give our judges a round of applause. First judge is Dr. Lenny John Hanisco. She is an associate professor here at FAU at the College of Nursing. We also have Dr. Sarah Nielsen, instructor here at FAU of the College of Business. We also have Dr. Janelle Walgu-Carroll, who is part of the Special Projects and Internal Relations Coordinator here at FAU. And lastly, Dr. Debbie Johnson-Rice, Senior Director of the Communications and Program Development of the College of Engineering. And now, on to the competition. Our students today represent the finest at Florida Atlantic. Let's show all of them our respect by not interfering in any way with their presentation. Please feel free to take pictures, but with the flash off, so you can take pictures. Just make sure your flash is not on. We don't want a paparazzi in here. And please hold your applause until after the student is completed, after the student is finished. The timing will begin the moment the presenter begins speaking. Starting us off will be Hans Gazenbach, who is from the College of Science, and the thesis is Complex Song in Bachman Sparrows, Relationships between Vocal Performance and Male Quality. Is our timer ready?
If you've ever been involved in a fight, you know that most people like to look at their opponents first before actually fighting. I guess it's a way that we can find some reassurance that we can actually win at this fight. Look at the strength and size of our opponents. Now, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and many animals in the wild risk a lot when they're trying to escape predators or fighting over resources with one another, and some of these risk injury or potentially death. Now, male songbirds use song as a way of sending critical information about themselves to the receivers. Now, some of the information and messages can include, I'm a great father, I'm super strong, I have impeccable genes, or my personal favorite, I'm a great lover. Now, on top of that, some species of songbirds sing another category of song called complex song, but the social function of complex song is unknown. And on top of that, complex song sounds distinctly different from the normal song that you hear when birds sing. Talk about adding complexity to an already complex vocal singing system. Now, song is very complex because different features of songs predicts different male qualities. Now, I study a species of songbird called the Bachman sparrow. Now, the Bachman sparrow sings a large repertoire of song called primary song, and the social function of primary song is to attract the mate and to defend a male's territory. But on top of that, when males square out to compete against each other during aggressive interactions, males also sing complex song. Now, like I stated before, the social function of complex song is unknown. But I hypothesize that complex song is used to intimidate other males that are kind of trying to encroach on another male's territory, kind of trying to scare them off. I also hypothesize that larger and stronger males sing complex songs that are more physiologically challenging to sing compared to the smaller and weaker ones. Now, what I did last summer was I captured a bunch of these sparrows, took body size measurements, measured their flight muscles, and some of my preliminary analysis have found the opposite is actually occurring to what I predicted. So instead of the larger, stronger males singing more physiologically challenging songs, it's actually the smaller ones that are. Now, there are some species of songbirds that are currently in decline because their habitat is being taken away due to human development. If we can disentangle the relationships of vocal complexity and the forces that drive the acoustic features and the social function of these songs, We can therefore look at populations that are not doing so well by looking at the vocal communication and social interactions, and then prioritize that habitat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hans. We really appreciate your effort to come out here and do that. We loved the visual aid, such a fascinating visual aid, and we'll never be able to hear birds the same. So thank you so much. Next, we have thank you again, Hans, for the exemplary model of confidence we'd all like to imitate. Next, we have Ayla Almas from the Schmidt College of Science. The title is Why You Buggin' Out? Does Seasonality Drive Insectivory in a Mixed Species Group of African Monkeys?
Hot summer day and you walk into Publix to see displays of watermelon and cocoa lemonades. Then you go back in the winter, but now it's displays of pumpkin and apple cider. Now, imagine you're a monkey in the forests of Tanzania, Africa. Would you expect to see different foods on display based on the season? With the FAU Primatology Lab, I study a group of monkeys known as the blue monkeys, the red-tailed monkeys, and get this, I study their hybrids too, which is a rarity in nature. They all belong to a group of primates called the guanids. Guanets are frugivores, indulging in fruits during the wet season while supplementing with leaves in the dry season. But something interesting is happening in Gombe National Park, Tanzania. The Gombe guanas that I study are eating a ton of insects. And I don't mean the occasional beetle, I mean snatching termites out of thin air and cracking open wood chutes to expose ant trails. While it's not unheard of for guanas to consume insects, it doesn't tend to be the most abundant item in their diet. At comparative sites in Kenya and Uganda, the red-tailed and blue monkeys maintain a fruit-dominant diet year-round, with insect eating really only sneaking up a little bit in the dry season when rainfall is minimal. But in Gombe, insects are the primary dietary item for our Gombe guanets, making up anywhere from 50 to 56% of their total diet, and fruits only making up 30%. So why are they bugging out in Gombe? Well, I hypothesize that the monkeys are eating a more diverse diet overall during the dry season, between May and October, when fruit might not be as available. Insect consumption goes up due to the fruit scarcity, but also because of competition with larger primates. Who wants to go toe-to-toe with a chimpanzee? So they're taking a sort of whatever's on display approach. In my thesis, I hope to answer the question, is seasonality driving the high insect eating for our Gombe guanets? I'll analyze feeding data taken over a 9-year period, and because it's a long-term study, I'll be able to assess different patterns that pop up within that 9 years. Like, are the hybrids eating different things than their parental species? Is temperature driving the insect eating? Because if the guanets are truly switching to higher insect eating, perhaps they're occupying an ecological niche in response to seasonality and climate change. And the Gombe hybrid population is extremely unique as they're a stable and thriving population. Studying them gives us the rare opportunity to witness and document evolution in action. And when you study a group of monkeys that are one of a kind, you get information that's one of a kind. And we can utilize that information to better understand tropical forest ecology. We can look at how animals adapt to climate change and assess conservation strategies that are appropriate for groups as unique as ours. And that's important because I think we can all agree that we would like to keep these cute little grub eaters around with us for as long as possible. Thank you so much.
Another excellent speech. Thank you, Kyla. We loved your introduction, and I think we can all say we felt like we were in a TED Talk. Excellent job. Next competitor is Sandeep Rajal from the College of Science. Thesis is Integrating Machine Learning and Landsat Products to Track Decadal Changes of Vegetation Communities in the Florida Everglades. Sandeep.
How important is Everglades National Park? So annually it earns more than 100 million from tourism and is home for more than 400 species of bird, 800 species of vertebrates, and 1600 species of vascular plants. The importance of this national park, it got an international recognition with its inclusion in Wetland of International Importance by Ramsar Convention and also by UNESCO World Heritage Site and UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. The vegetation of any region is subjected to change with the natural factors like flooding, hurricane, and climate change. On anthropogenic side, South Florida Water Management Project diverted water from this region, shifting the water level of this national park. So I aim to track the changes in vegetation to better manage this protected area. For this, I'll be taking Landsat satellite images from year 1985 to 2023 to produce 38 annual vegetation classification map. So for this large chunk of data set, it's difficult to handle, process, and analyze in our local computer. This is where Google Earth Engine comes into play, providing access to more than 80 petabytes of data sets and high computing power in its cloud-based platform. In addition to this, I need to collect data from the field to apply random forest algorithm for classification and validation. The largest restoration project of US, Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan, was implemented in this region since 2010. But we have the map for this region from 2009. So my research product provide more evidence to monitor progress of this restoration project. The biggest strength of this research is its simplicity and scalability. So anybody with the skill set and good internet connection can adopt it to classify vegetation anywhere across the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandeep. As we can see, extremely relevant to our area. This research is very significant to our area. And we'd like to use some hand gestures and the projection of your voice. Thank you, Sandeep. Judges. Next up, we have Michael Ostroff from the College of Science. The title is Dimensional Collapsor Theory.
In physics, we have a myriad of unsolved problems, and this has been the case for decades. However, I've recently identified a new class of structures in general relativity, or GR for short, which could solve many of these long-standing problems. I call them dimensional collapsars, and they have the unique property of being able to change the dimensionality of spacetime. Dimensional collapsars are essentially collapsed wormholes whose cross-sectional topologies have been converted into compact bases. They form the bridge between GR and Kaluza-Klein theory, which is just GR but explicitly with compact bases. These compact bases give rise to gauge fields, such as those found within the standard model. They also have dilaton fields, which control how strong their gauge fields are, bigger being stronger. My research suggests that our universe itself is a dimensional collapsar. It is deeply nested within other dimensional collapsars in hyperdimensional spacetime, and it is not cloned. Dimensional collapsar theory, or DCT for short, predicts a multiverse with universes of different dimensionalities, dominant gauge fields, and even standard models of particle physics. This would explain the hierarchy problem and the dimensionality of our universe via the anthropic principle. DCT can also explain dark energy and matter. Thus, the aforementioned dilaton fields are best thought of as the size of complex spaces. If a complex space is shrinking, this causes the extended dimensions to expand in response. A good visualization would be a chunk like being fanned by the press. As it's thinner, it expands to the size. If a complex space were to shrink over and all over our universe, that would accelerate our universe's expansion, which is exactly what dark energy is. A more extreme version of this would happen in a dimensional collapsar or near one spin. The extreme expansion this would cause will look very similar to our universe's inflationary epoch. There are current systems where black holes gravitate by bringing space-time into their singularity. When I'm though, these coordinates don't really make sense as space-time appears to be getting deleted. If matter were to act as the opposite of a cardinal presso, it would shrink the extended dimensions and expand a compact space. This would elevate the dilaton field of matter, which would then diffuse outward, forming a halo structure. This would have the opposite gravitational effect compared to dark energy. As such, I think back that this structure is what we know as dark matter halo. I have more findings to share, but alas, I'm
Thank you, Michael, for shedding light more about the dimensional collapsor theory. As we know, dark matter, dark energy, black holes, something that continues to fascinate scientists, so we thank you for that. We also remind our competitors to please present from center stage and not behind the podium. On to our judges. Thank you again, Michael, for sharing your fascinating research. Our next competitor is Heather Wolverton from the College of Science, with the title being Ba Ba Bachmans, documenting song development in the Bachman Sparrow.
Have you listened to a baby babble recently? Like, really listened. They tend to repeat syllables and do their best to mimic the words that they hear all around them. But it usually sounds like an incomprehensible language that only mom and dad can understand. Still, with each passing month, as they get older, those nonsensible sounds start to morph into recognizable words. How does this happen? The process is called vocal learning, and it's not unique to humans. For years, linguists have studied birdsong to learn more about the stages and the features of vocal learning. We've found that both humans and songbirds tend to mimic the sounds that they hear from the adults around them, and that they have a sensitive period of learning early in life where they pick up the most vocalizations. Recently, however, researchers have proposed that there might be another similarity. Like humans, songbirds may develop something called syntax. Syntax is the organizational structure of different vocalizations to create meaning. In human language, it has two distinct levels. The first level is when you take sounds or phononyms that don't have a meaning on their own, and you combine them to create words. The second level occurs when you take those words and combine them again to create sentences. Now, it's still unclear to what degree any non-human species will display syntax, but there are some species of songbirds that seem to have at least a type of syntax in their vocalizations, and one of those species is the Bachman sparrows. Male Bachman sparrows have about 50 different song types that they sing in a random order, but some of those song types tend to be paired together when they're vocalizing, like a syntax pattern. I want to know why they're pairing these vocalizations together and whether it's just something that they learn or an example of syntax. To do this, I'll be conducting a hand-rearing study where I go out to our field in Jonathan Dickinson State Park, collect 14 male nestling sparrows, and then bring them to our lab in Davie and raise them by exposing them to different song types. And some of those song types will be in a set syntax pattern. I want to see if they're learning these patterns and if they're developing syntax. This research should help me shed some light on how syntax is learned or developed in a non-human species. And who knows, perhaps it can even help provide some more insight onto how human language goes from that nonsensical baby babble to complex theses delivered in under 3 minutes. Yeah.
And definitely the syntax, as a public speaking consultant, I can say the syntax of your speech is wonderful. We loved how articulate you were, and the research was very fascinating. On to our judges. Thank you, judges, and thank you, Heather. Our next competitor is Leon Liu from the College of Arts and Letters. Cited for his background piano music.
When we're discussing classical music, the composer that usually comes to people's minds are those from the Germany or France or Italy, such as Beethoven, Bach, Ravel, or Puccini. But we seldom mention a British composer. So today I will take your 3 minutes to talk about a British composer that was born in 1884 in London, York Bowen. Bowen's composition across various genres, including orchestral piece, choral piece, chamber music, and a large amount of piano solo works. As a virtuoso pianist, he is famous for his extraordinary technique and skills. He is one of the best pianists in his era. And after hearing his recital, the famous French composer Saint-Saëns said, "This is the most remarkable British composer and pianist ever." Now, let's focus on his composition style. Some critics call Bowen the English Rachmaninoff for his pianistic style writing and the rich harmonic style. Now, his rich harmonic style is often associated with the late Romantic period, but definitely influenced by the 20th century's modernism. So his harmonic language, as described by this English pianist Stephen Hough, is endlessly inventive, which means it blends with the traditional tonality and the 20th century's chromaticism. Various composers like Chopin, Liszt, Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, and Scriabin, they both influenced York Bowen's piano solo works. In his work here, a rich, lush melody, an interesting counterpoint, and of course the harmonic language. So by his deep understanding of those composers allows him to use several different types of composition technique, such as chromatic voice leading, parallel chord section, modal inflection, and most importantly, the whole tone scaling chords. This allows him to create a multi-voice orchestral texture in piano works, and it's always interesting to listen to his piano works. So, and he always used 5/1 progression to end his pieces, and he always traditionally resolved the whole tone scales and chords, which is not common in 20th century's composition style. So for his pianistic writing and the language of harmonic, allows us to study more of his pianist works, and hopefully one day we can hear more of his works to perform in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. We appreciate your use of diction, vivid imagery such as rich, luscious melody. Excellent job. On to our judges. Thank you, judges, and thank you again to Leon. Our next competitor is Daniel Rivas from the College of Arts and Letters. His title is Bioarchaeological Implications of Parodic Hypertosis in the Pre-Columbian Societies of Gulf Ecuador.
My name is Daniel Rivas and I am a bioarchaeologist, which means that by studying skeletal remains, I can approach the biocultural processes between past societies and their environment. One of the most recurrent markers that we can identify in skeletons is porosity hyperostosis, a symptom characterized by the presence of a small or larger pits in the skull. Several causes or factors are related to porosity hyperostosis, but the most common are iron deficiency anemia, hemolytic anemias, and infections. These factors cause the overstimulation of the erythropoiesis and trigger the bone marrow expansion, which results in several holes in the skull. Because porosity hyperostosis allows bioarchaeologists to assess the nutrition and health condition of past societies, I carry out a histological analysis in a sample of 119 individuals to merge the obtained results with data from previous research and evaluate if factors that I aforementioned can be considered as a possible cause for porosity hyperostosis, but in the ancient Ecuadorian coastal societies. The results indicated that only 59 individuals from an overall sample of 1,079 showed lesions in their skulls. This means that even porosity hyperostosis was present for more than 5,000 years in the coastal Ecuador, it was not a regular marker. When I evaluated the factors related to porosity hyperostosis, I had to drop the hemolytic anemia and iron deficiency anemia because we don't have any evidence in pathological and historical evidence. And what about infections? We have evidence of bacteria and parasite remaining in many or several archaeological sites around the American continent, which makes this factor as a potential cause for porosity hyperostosis in the ancient Ecuador. However, while I was looking for other alternatives, I found a never before considered but probable factor for porosity hyperostosis in the ancient Ecuador, Bartonellosis or Carrion disease. But why? Because this disease shares clinical characteristics with hemolytic anemia, a factor directly related to porosity hyperostosis but in the Old World, Africa, Europe, and Asia. This evidence, together with other historical, epidemiological, and biological proof, allowed me to propose this proposal, this disease as a, probable factor for hypertosis. And although this proposal is just a hypothesis, it has the potential to expand our understanding of ancient health conditions in the past. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you for connecting ancient archaeology to modern health. Someone South Ecuadorian is slightly concerned. We'll talk later. Next up, we have our judges. Thank you, judges, and thank you again to Daniel. Fabulous visual aid, by the way. Next up, we have Jessica Dobbs, also from the College of Arts and Letters, with a very interesting topic, poverty's impact on a single female-headed household through a historical lens.
So as a humanities major, for my entire life, I of course gravitate to anything that has to do with historical context. How do we take a look at people's struggles using history? So for me, this was a no-brainer. How can we talk about single mother struggles moving through history from different time periods? So for me, something that I noticed was the idea of the undeserving poor versus the deserving poor. So America has always separated women into these two categories. So starting with the colonial time period, who was considered undeserving? Single mothers. They were often pushed from community to community until they eventually pushed to bigger cities like Boston, who would then take care of them. During the Industrial Revolution, single mothers again considered undeserving. What would they have to do the rest of their lives? Become factory women, right? There would be no solution for them besides working for the rest of their lives. That then brings us to the Great Depression. The women who would self-label themselves as modern women, the flappers of this time period, during the Great Depression then suffered. They lacked male partnerships and male relatives. Who makes the undeserving poor when we get to post-World War II? Those are the women who are without their husbands or male partners from the war, right? But here's where there's a split in history. You are deserving if your husband came home. You are undeserving if your husband didn't, right? Whether that was through injury, through death, or abandonment. As we then move to the civil rights era and beyond, moving into the 70s, moving into the 1980s, we then find that undeserving begins to split along race lines. We see that through America's history, starting backwards into the colonial time period, we see that undeserving also splits along race lines. When we speak of race lines, we speak of the illegality of marriage of enslaved people through to the Civil War. As we get back to the civil rights movement, we see there is a moral panic over single mothers, specifically single mothers of color on the welfare rolls. We also see the stereotype of the welfare queen start in the 80s and the 90s. That reverberates into today's welfare system. Today's welfare system, if you look at any Twitter feed, even the past week, you will see people arguing over what do you deserve? Do you deserve more expensive food? Do you deserve to get your hair done? What makes you undeserving versus deserving of aid? The American welfare system has a long way to go, but historically, they have always separated women between deserving and undeserving. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for that very powerful message. I really liked your topic. I think it's extremely relevant, and I think we can all really appreciate it and let that sink in. On to our judges. Thank you, judges, and thank you, Jessica. Fantastic use of your space on stage, by the way. Next up, we have Aaron Warren from the College of Arts and Letters. The title is Synesthesia. Does seeing music and color hold the key to artistic genius?
On a cold winter afternoon in 2004, a man named Daniel Tammet sat at a folding table in front of the Natural History Museum on the Oxford University campus, reciting numbers into a microphone. He'd been speaking since 9 a.m., and already it was after 4 p.m., a length of almost 7 hours, and around him a crowd of onlookers gathered in hushed awe. Then, just a little after 5, Daniel spoke the last digits, and the room erupted in thunderous applause. Daniel had just become a world record holder, having recited the number pi to an astounding 22,000 decimal places. What made this feat even more amazing is the fact that Daniel only started memorizing the numbers 3 months earlier. When he was asked after the fact about how he did it, he was candid about the secret of his success. He said, "Memorizing those numbers felt easy for me, because to me, looking at them felt like looking at a work of art, like the Mona Lisa." What Daniel was actually describing is a phenomenon known as synesthesia. Synesthesia is rare. It affects only 1 in every 2,000 people. But for those who have it, ordinary experiences become extraordinary things. Because synesthetes experience abnormal sensory input in response to ordinary sensory output. For example, many will see colors in their mind when they hear certain words, numbers, or even listen to musical pitches. Not surprising, synesthesia and the arts are inexorably intertwined, and many famous artists have been synesthetic, including the poet Vladimir Nabokov and composers like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Franz Liszt. Yet the question remains, do synesthetes enjoy an advantage when it comes to the creation of their art? And the answer is surprising, because historically they have struggled to express themselves through their artistic mediums. For example, Franz Liszt once attempted to use his synesthesia to set a painting to music. The result was a symphonic poem that was panned by critics and audiences alike. Another composer, Alexander Scriabin, attempted to use his synesthesia to invent a device that projected colored lights onto the stage while his music played. The result was an audience that was confused and even a little frightened. But how could this be possible? How could such a meaningful gift not translate into the creation of meaningful art? The answer lies in the distinct overlap that medical science has shown us exists between synesthesia and another far more prevalent condition, autism spectrum disorder. In fact, synesthesia and autism share many clinical similarities, and many synesthetes are also autistic. In my paper, I will explore the deep connection between these two disorders and shine a light on how understanding synesthesia better will help us understand autism and vice versa, and help synesthetes express themselves and their artistic gifts in the world around them. Thank you.
Outstanding job, Aaron. Amazing introduction, and we love the structure of your speech. Who knows, maybe some of us found out we have synesthesia today. Thank you, judges. Once again, outstanding job there. What an amazing way to conclude the third preliminary round of 3MT. Presenters can now breathe. Round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to vote for your People's Choice Award winner. Please scan the QR code on the screen to select the competitor that you feel should win. For the next 60 seconds, I'll be pointing out some reminders in case you would like to keep in mind some of the guidelines as we vote. So voting is open for about the next 60 seconds. We have, for instance, we have comprehension and content. Was the presenter clear in the motivation, background, and significance of the research question? Did the presentation clearly describe the research strategy and design? Presentation, did it clearly describe the conclusions and outcomes of the research? We also have engagement and communication. Was the oration delivered clearly, and was the language appropriate for a non-specialist audience? Was the PowerPoint slide well defined? Did it enhance the presentation? The presenter, did he or she convey the enthusiasm for their research and capture and maintain the audience's attention? Lastly, the scoring calibration. 1 being that the presentation did not meet the expectations, and 7 being that the presentation was outstanding. So once again, 1 did not meet your expectations, 7, presentation was outstanding with no flaws. Okay, here we go. Let's announce the winners. I would like to invite to the stage the Graduate College's Director of Admissions and Enrollment Management, Stephen Stepp. He will be presenting the awards to the winners for this round. Let's begin with the second runner-up. We have Heather Wilberton.
Thank you.
For our runner-up, we have Kayla Alness. Congratulations to both of you. We have our People's Choice winner. Can we have Erin Warren to the stage? Congratulations.
Thank you. I love you're here too.
I'm actually going to ask Erin to stay on the stage because you are also the 3MC winner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. If we could have all the winners come up stage, on stage as well. Group photo real quick. This can work. We'll make it work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if we could have the judges come up with the winners as well. Scoot over. This is good.
One more, please. Thank you.
And then don't just stay up, we're actually going to have all the competitors to come take a picture.
All people on the back.
People like that, and you said, yeah. Back, please.
Try to.
I heard a student who was practicing for 3MC and they said winning is just getting up there and presenting. And with that, so each and every one of you did a great job. You're
Could you go a little bit sideways, please? Like, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for coming. Please come on Thursday, the 21st at 6 p.m. for the Championship 3MC round. Once again, that's this Thursday at 6 p.m. We look forward to seeing each and one of you there. Thank you.